Hi, everybody. I'm Shelley, and I'm the Novel Witch here on YouTube. And I'm Shelley Ferguson, a paranormal romance author out in the world. And today we're going to talk about the books that I read in June and the two book related movies that I watched. Well, one's a show and one's a movie, but I digress. I read 5 books in the month of June, and it's still going to be a pretty quick talk about because all 5 of them are out of the same series. Now, I found this series by accident and I love it so much. It's the Nevermore Bookshop series by Stephanie Holmes. And I believe right now there's 12 books. And I've read the first 5 in June. The whole series is a why choose romance. So she's got more than one boyfriend. It is extremely spicy. You will burn your little mouth. And it's a cozy murder mystery at the same time. It's all set in a small town in England in the countryside. And the main character, her name's Mina. She is a 20 something. I think she's about 25. She left her small town. She went to New York. She went to fashion school with her best friend. And then she comes home because she's going blind. She has a genetic condition that they found while she was in New York, and it made her lose her internship with some big designer. And I don't know if he's a real designer or one they made up for the story. I'm thinking he's made up. But they talk about other real designers like Vivienne Westwood and things like that. And that part's fun. But the best part are her book boyfriends. She has an untold number. I'm not going to tell you because it'll ruin the fun. But when she arrives at this magical bookstore in her hometown where she used to hide as a kid because she was the oddball, she was the poor girl who lived on, I believe they call them council estates in England, the not quite the best neighborhood. So she goes back to the bookshop because the new owner is looking for an assistant. But the new owner is Heathcliff from Wuthering Heights. And he has a roommate, James Moriarty, from the Sherlock Holmes books. And they have a third roommate, the Raven, from Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, except for he can shapeshift between a raven and a human man. And the reason that you've got these 3 fictional characters in the bookshop is because the bookshop has magical powers and it brings villains to life out of books from the bookshop. So over the years, they've had things like Tatiana, the fairy queen. They've had, shoot, I can't remember everybody else, but they're really funny. And they find them, new jobs and create fake documents so they can go live a happy life out in the world. And nobody knows if they die or what happens or if they age because they haven't covered that in the book series, but they're real people. They have feelings, they have thoughts, they have the memories of their book up until they disappeared from it. So like Heathcliff disappeared from his book before Kathy died and he became, so awful. And Moriarty disappeared before he went over the waterfall with Sherlock. But they've obviously read their books and they know how they're supposed to end. So they have all the memories of their written world and then all the memories they created after they came to life in the bookshop. And Mina's come back and now she slowly figures things out. And she slowly starts dating Moriarty because who can, resist a world class criminal in a very fine body that only wears, the 3-piece suits with the vest and the rolled up sleeves when he has to. Um, but they also solve crimes. For a small town in England, there is a lot of murder. I mean, we're getting into Murder She Wrote kind of murder mystery level where everybody is just dying at some point and they're going to have to ship new people into this little town. But let's talk about the 5 books as much as we can without giving spoilers. The first one is called Pride and Premeditation. No, excuse me. The first one is called Dead and Stormy Night. And that's where she gets introduced and she gets her job at the bookstore. You find out that she's going blind. And the mystery there is her ex best friend is found dead in the bookshop. So Mina's obviously the first suspect the police are going to go to because they had a huge fight and she left New York and then the other girl followed her and now she's dead in her new job. So they solve that one, and then we get the second one. I'm not gonna lie, it might be my favorite. It's called Pride and Premeditation, and this one is set at a fancy house, the big estate house there in town, and they are having their first Jane Austen experience weekend. Everybody has to come in outfits. There's different classes for things from the time period. There's a ball at the end, and there's some scholars that are doing, Jane Austen kind of talks and things like that. And there's one, and he's a douchey dude, so you don't really feel bad when he dies, but they still have to solve the murder so they can get home to solving other mysteries at the bookshop. But in this one, there's a new villain that comes out of a book right before they go. And the villain is Lydia Bennet from Pride and Prejudice. The sister that runs off with Wickham. She's boy mad. I'm not going to tell you what job in life they find for her at the end of the book because I was honestly not expecting it. Should have. The sign was there, but it is just so good. I never really thought of Lydia Bennet as being the villain. Wickham is, of course, the villain, but she is the most snotty of the sisters. So if you're a Jane Austen fan, just read it for that book alone. The third one is Mice and Murder. And in this one, the old ladies in town have created a banned book club where they read banned books and, get together and talk about it. And they need a new location for the book club to meet. So Mina brings them into the bookstore, makes them all cozy, and then boom, the meanest old lady dies. And then other old ladies start dying. So now they got to figure that one out because the cops are looking at the people at the bookshop again, and they don't want the cops to look too close at them because, they're from storybooks. So the fourth one is called Memoirs of a Garroter. And in this one, Mina has brought in a famous detective writer. He writes crime mysteries, and he's going to give a little talk, and he's promoting a new book that's coming out. So he's going to have a little, 2-day festival at the bookstore. And he lives close, so they're making a big deal out of it. Except for after his opening night talk, he's found dead not a closet, in the front door. You'll read about the closet. The closet comes in later. No, you'll that closet has things happening. But so they have to prove that none of them killed the famous author who just happened to show up dead in their bookstore. Serious, y'all. Murder, She Wrote vibes in this little town. Now, the fifth one, the last one I finished, is called Pros and Cons. And this one's pretty good too. Now, in this one, Moriarty is framed for the murder of a woman who is recently found dead after she was found dead 3 months ago because she faked her own death and Moriarty had a hand in it. And now she came back and suddenly she's dead for real life. So the cops are closing in. They've, seized all of his assets in the Cayman Islands, so he can't help out at the bookshop. He can't buy all the fun things that he normally does. And the surprise in this one is Sherlock Holmes has already come through, which is crazy because he's not a villain. Is he? Is he a villain? But anyways, so Sherlock's already in the world, and he kidnaps Moriarty whenever he finds out the police are going to go and arrest him so he can help solve the mystery. But Mina's not going to let that slide because Moriarty belongs to her now. So she has to get involved and solve that murder. And I like it. There's some twists up in that one. It's very twisty, very good. You're going to love it. So if you're a Sherlock Holmes fan, I would read book 5 just for the Sherlock Holmes vibes. I started at the beginning of this month A Novel Way to Die, which is the 6th book. And in this one, I haven't gotten too far into it yet because I've been working on my own books that I'm about to have a release with. But so far, we have had a lot more people show up in the bookstore. And in the last week or so, they've had Socrates show up, who keeps running around tearing up the philosophy section because it's all wrong. They've had Frankenstein show up, and he's putting together a body in the basement. And then in the opening scene, we have the Headless Horseman come. And he's, a spectral ghost with the real horse that pees. on Mina. So that's about as far as I've gotten in that one. So you can go ahead and do that if you want to read that book too. Sorry for that. We had to take a little toddler slash dog break because 10 minutes of mommy doing something that wasn't related to them was just too much. So that was the 5 books I read. And I want to talk really quickly about the 2 shows that I watched I think you might be interested in. And fun fact, this is the 7th time trying to record the part about these 2 shows. So I really, really want you to know how much I felt about these 2 shows. The first one is The Sheep's Detective, and it's awesome. I couldn't see it in theaters because we don't have a reliable babysitter up here. So I have to wait for everything to come down to, streaming. And I watched this the first night I could. And oh my land, it is so good. I love Hugh Jackman. I love the little town. I love all the sheep. Everybody knows about Agatha Christie. She was watching it with me. She cried. I cried. I thought about making an emotional support sheep doll. It's very, very important. And now I need to put a winter lamb in a book somewhere. I'm just saying, if you know, you know. Okay. Now, the other one is The Other Bennett Sister. And I am a huge Jane Austen fan. I've read the books, got the movies, got all the paraphernalia. I've made cross stitch samplers of her quotes, okay? Pretty big fan. So when The Other Bennett Sister came out, I was hesitant to watch it, but I gave it a shot. But I only got past the first episode to where she goes to the ball and she's talking to the optician's son, and then her mother says, "He has a shot with a bell." And I couldn't go any further because I was worried the author of The Other Bennett Sister was going to just weave Mary's story into the timeline for Pride and Prejudice. And my mind rejected it. It just wouldn't do it. So a couple of weeks go by and I see clips from the show on Instagram, as one does. And surprisingly enough, she didn't do what I was afraid she was going to do. So I went back and I watched it. And oh my God, I love it so much. Mary Bennett is doing her own Hearth and Desk challenge in the movie. Okay. She has a horrible mother who is kind of nice to her other sisters, but uses her as the whipping boy. She just wants to do her own thing and nobody's letting her do it. She's not getting any support, even from people who are supposed to be her friends, but who ends up stealing the guy she was trying to land to save her family. But it's such a good thing that she didn't actually marry Mr. Collins because she gets Mr. Hayward. And at this point, I don't feel like that's a spoiler. Everybody's going to know that she's in love with Mr. Hayward. I'm not going to say if she gets him or Mr. Ryder, but she has the attention of both men. They're both eligible, they both have status. Her mother is perfectly fine with both of them. She prefers one over the other because one has, estates and money, and the other is going to be a working lawyer. But that's perfectly fine. They're not trying to join high society. She doesn't want to marry a duke. She doesn't even want to marry an earl or a baron. She just wants to find somebody who loves her for being her. So she reinvents herself. She leaves her horrible mother and she goes to live with her uncle and aunt. And I believe this is the same uncle and aunt who helped Elizabeth marry Darcy, and they took her to Pemberley, in the real book. So they take her in and they love her and they let her bloom. She discovers things in London that she never got to know about in her small English village that she was confined to. She makes friends, she does her own writing and journaling. She's just out there living her best life. She even has dreams to become a governess of an older girl who she can tootle, tutor, tutor. Should be called tootling. If she can tootle in refined subjects of literature and history and language. But there is the romance too. I love the scene where Hayward has her out in the rowboat in the Lake District, and then Ryder comes up and he's just like, "Hello, I'm a golden Labrador. I'm going to come out there and join you in the boat. Instead of waiting for, 30 minutes for you to row in and us to have a civilized conversation. And then there's Caroline Bingley. Hello. I'm Miss Rather Well to Do Caroline Bingley. Oh my God. That woman plays that act. She she does such a good job. The actress who plays Caroline Bingley. And when they're doing this stretching in the garden before they go climb the mountain, epic, just epic. So, if you were afraid, like I was, that it's going to follow too closely to the Pride and Prejudice timeline, or that there isn't going to be enough of a differentiation between the original book and the book that this author created for the other Bennett sister, don't be. Just go and watch it, and it's going to fall in line. There's not a hint of spice in it. I think there's a kiss when they decide to get married, so you can watch it with the kids in the room. And oh, Mylanta, all of the love and all of the feels for Mary Bennett and her own growth challenge that she did during this movie. Okay, I have to get upstairs and feed the kids and the dogs their lunch. Thankfully, the cat, she just naps all day under my bed and I don't have to do anything for her. But I wanted to share what I had read and what I had saw because I knew that y'all were going to love it too. Okay, be safe, have fun, don't die.